Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another great edition of the Grue Rume Show. And for the Grue Rume Show today, we got a very great guest. He is a professional wrestler. He used to wrestle for TNA and then it changed to Impact Wrestling. He's part of this awesome horror group called Decay, Decay, and he is in the group right now with Havoc, Rosemary and Black Tor Tor Taurus it is. And it used to be the old group used to be Crazy Steve, Rosemary, and the Monster Abyss. But that went away, and now we're into the new era with the new group, and they're just as deadly and just as dark. So I'm really looking forward to talking to my guest today. He is Crazy Steve. And I have a co-host today, and his name is Billy Rock. So Billy Rock, let's go.
Welcome everybody to the Grue Rume podcast. I am your co-host, Billy Rock, and let's get the show on the road.
Of course. And I am Rocco Cross. I am the host at Stutters, and I am the host of the Grue Rume. And the interview with Crazy Steve talking about Decay and his wrestling career and what horror he likes will be coming up very shortly, so stay tuned. Okay, welcome to Grue, and thanks so much for taking time out of your night and coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a minute. We have been trying to get this done for quite a while, and so the fact that we're getting to do it now is I'm glad. I'm happy that we're able to do it.
Same. Thanks again for doing it. And the first thing I wanted to start out by asking you is Crazy Steve seems like it's very horror based. And are you a big horror fan?
So I would say it's tough. I don't like there's not a lot of horror movies that get my attention today. Okay. But I was brought up on horror movies. Like my mom had me watching Nightmare on Elm Street from the time I was like a child. So I have my favorites, Halloween, The Exorcist. I'm a big fan of the Rob Zombie films.
Nice.
There's a lot that I could list off, but they all come from like the 1980s, if not, older. There's some newer ones out there too, for sure. But when I see a preview for like a horror movie nowadays, it really needs to go out of its way to get my attention and to make me want to go see it. I feel like everything I see that is like mainstream is just like, okay, I've seen this before in another way. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah. Okay. And don't get me wrong, I'll still go to the theaters to see, my Michael Myers, my, Freddy Krueger's and stuff like that when they do these remakes out of curiosity, more so than anything. But I don't know. I hesitate to answer the question as to whether or not I'm a fan, because I feel like some people out there be like, well, screw you, man. I watch everything all the time. So I definitely have a background in it. It's definitely makes up a good majority of my DVD collection.
Nice.
And I've been known to be spotted at various horror cons, working various tables and such and so forth as well. So it definitely fits within the character that I portray.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man.
So did you go see like the newer ones? Like I know Halloween Kills and Scream 5 was actually just out. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're making Halloween Ends now. So yeah.
So I've seen the Scream franchise never did anything for me. It just didn't. I don't know. I've seen a couple of them, but it wasn't. I don't know. It just didn't speak to me. I did see the newest installment of Halloween in theaters, and then I watched it again at home. My wife really enjoyed it. I was not. I thought there were certain aspects of it that they got dead on. I really enjoyed the visuals. I thought the gore was really well done. The atmosphere was really, really, really well done in that film. I felt like the mask looked great. There's a lot of good things that I could say about that movie. So
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Oh yeah. And are you more of like a fan of like gore horror, or the horror movies that just make you think, or like the classics?
yeah, so I mean, everything has its special place in my heart. I mean, I don't favor one over the other by any
Okay.
stretch. It really kind of just depends on what I'm in the mood for or whatever. Like, it's very similar to my music taste. Like, I like all sorts of music, granted, but I mean, the majority of my playlist would be metal, but that doesn't mean I like
Nice.
every band in the metal genre.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still picky. You know what I mean? I'm still picky. And like, even if there's bands that are like, if they sound like a certain band that I listen to and someone's like, oh man, you would love these guys because they sound just like these guys. That doesn't necessarily mean I will, right? Like, I'm still very picky when it comes to that sort of thing. So to go back to answering the question, I guess like it's all over the map. I mean, there's definitely like, I really like my psychological horrors
Mhm.
a lot. I feel like those stick with me more than like something super gory.
Okay.
I feel like stuff that's like really gory. I don't know what you would even consider to be really gory, to be honest with you. Like, it varies, right? Like, some people will say Hostel,
Yeah.
others will say like Audition, for instance. Like,
Yes. Yes.
you know what I mean? So like, it really depends on how it's done. That makes it like stick with you to the point of like, holy. But yeah, like, you know, I like everything, I guess, and just it depends on how well it's done and how well it's made.
Okay.
Nice.
And like, what about Halloween season? Like, are you someone who like decorates the house up for Halloween, or dresses up on Halloween night?
Well, I mean, like, I dress up almost every day, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah,
my whole
that's
job
true.
as a professional wrestler, and how I've chosen to present myself is very, I mean, like, it's very much like getting ready for Halloween. That being said, Halloween is totally my Christmas.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I thoroughly enjoy Halloween, and like, I had the house all decorated up. Actually, the room I'm in right now, I had the entire room painted. We just recently like redid everything and painted over all the stuff. But when we first moved in here, it was just, we put up all the drywall, we put up all the stuff. And that Halloween, I had like a huge party at my house, and
Oh wow.
I had painted up the whole basement in this neon paint with, I had all these black lights in there and stuff like that. It looked awesome. It was a lot of work. It cost me a bunch of money, and it took me over a month to
Oh,
prep and to get it done, because I was doing it all by myself. And
yeah.
but it was awesome. It was totally worth it. Like, it was very, very, very successful as far as parties are concerned. But yeah, Halloween is definitely my thing. I still, now as I get older, I find myself getting into seasons more. Like, you know, some people around Christmas will be like, oh, I gotta start watching Christmas movies or whatever. I've never really been that person.
Yeah.
But I find myself now, when it comes time for like October hits, I'm like, oh, okay, now I should really start like digging in my horror movie collection. And so up until recently, yeah, the seasons have definitely started bringing that out more, I would say.
Sweet. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm the same way. My favorite holiday, Halloween, hands down. Like, you know, Christmas and Thanksgiving are cool too, but like, my holiday is Halloween. That's what I love. I love the season and going to like haunted houses and hay rides and all that stuff. So like, everything about the season I love.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
My favorite holiday season is professional wrestling every day.
There you go.
There you go, Bill. And like, what inspired you to like be Crazy Steve? Like, I mean, was it all the horror that we talk about, how much you love Halloween, or was it something else?
I mean, it played a factor in it for sure. Like wrestling has always been a passion of mine ever since I was a kid. Like that's all. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do, and I've had like adult jobs and stuff like that, but I've always been wrestling
Yeah.
and always had wrestling on my brain. So what I present to the audience from a visual standpoint is a convergence of a lot of things, and horror definitely plays a factor in that too. But I would also put in like music, the type of music that I listen to, or even not so much now, but like when I was impressionable and like in my teens, I think a lot of that definitely played a factor into what I wanted to look like. And not, I didn't want to copy those bands or those movies and be complete ripoffs of that. I wanted I took inspiration from their visuals and such and so forth. So like, for sure, you can take your horror movies, but if you want to go into the realm of like music, and again, I'm impressionable in like the 16, I'm 17, 18. I started training to be a professional wrestler at age 18. So these years of being a teenager up to this point have been, and I'm listening to bands like Slipknot and Mudvayne and Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson, and like all the bands that I just listed had very, very strong visuals that came with them, be it in a music video, be it a live performance, or be it how they presented themselves to their audience as well. They all had like showmanship about them, but all in a sort of horror, macabre sort of way. And that to me is just what I felt most attracted to. And it's and when you bring it back into the world of pro wrestling as well, like the characters that I felt most drawn to were of that nature, like a darker, your Undertakers, your Mankind, Kane, Raven, anybody who had some sort of like twisted backstory or something weird about them. I always found them to be more interesting than your traditional good guy and your Bret Hart or your Hulk Hogan or your whatever, and that's not to say that I didn't like them either. It's just that what consumed my brain at that age, through my through drawings and artwork and stuff like that, was definitely like those big, larger than life characters. So, once I started developing Crazy Steve, and once I started kind of painting what that picture looks like, so to speak, like those elements of horror movies and music and comic books and all sorts of things like that, like they all play a factor into what I look like today, as well as what I look like, coming up. I just have a little bit more money to throw around today, so I'm able to do a little bit more. But those influences were always there from the start.
Nice. And like you mentioned bands like Marilyn Manson and Slipknot, are they bands like you would currently still listen to, or do you listen to like other bands too now?
Oh yeah. I'm definitely like, my music taste doesn't resemble my movie taste, in the sense that like I will listen to everything from you got your Jimi Hendrix to to everything, Jimi Hendrix to Guns N' Roses to, again, your Rob Zombies to Converge to the Chariot to Busta Rhymes to like it's all over the place. Like it's completely all over the place. But as far as like a genre, as far as any genre, like I said, metal, hardcore, that area usually takes up the majority of my iPod. But as far as like the years that I listen to everything from new stuff to today, to stuff that I listened to as a kid, to all sorts of stuff.
Nice.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely. And if you were out at a bar and someone wanted you to sing a song, karaoke song, what would be your song you would go to?
What's my karaoke song? It would be my karaoke song of choice, although I've yet to do it, but it is definitely there's a couple. There's two. I'll give you two.
Okay.
One would be Vampire's Night Out from Harley Poe.
Yes.
And then the other song is called Carolina Drama by an off band by Jack White. They're called the Recanters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Those two bands, or well, those two songs, I know them. I don't need to even see. The thing is with me and karaoke, I'm legally blind. I can't see.
Yeah.
So you need to read a screen to see karaoke. So
Exactly.
I never do it because I'm like, oh, what if I can't see? And then I definitely, because I already can't sit. So like that's a given. But what if I can't see the lyrics and then I start forgetting the lyrics? Then it would just go downhill from there, you know? So those two songs in particular, those are the ones that I know like the back of my hand, and I'd feel pretty confident that I could get away with performing both of those tracks and not getting kicked out of said bar or booed off the stage. So,
All right.
But it doesn't go much further than that. It really doesn't go much further than that.
All right. Billy, you got some questions too.
Yeah, absolutely. So early in your career, you teamed with Kamala in the show called GCW.
Mm-hmm.
How was the experience working with Kamala?
Yeah, he was awesome. So Kamala was somebody that I would obviously I watched growing up, and I had his LJN figure, and I originally teamed up with him during a promotion called Warrior One. They only ran one show, but it was like a big super show, and I was very fortunate to be a part of it. The concept was an interesting concept, but it was the idea of that getting all of these wrestlers from all over the place, past, present, and future, so to speak. So like you had your Kamalas, we had Jimmy Hart there, but then you also had like Brian Danielson was there. Raven, who was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, worked Samoa Joe, who was the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Champion, with Mick Foley as their special guest referee. Nigel McGuinness was on this show. Like all these people, there was a lot of people on the show. It was a big deal. And so I found myself tagging with Kamala for the first time, and he could not have been more of a sweetheart. Just a super awesome, really, really cool human being. We got along great. And in the match, like wrestling states that like the veteran of the match should get certain parts of said match because he's a veteran and he's earned it and he knows what he's doing there. Part of me being young, and I was only maybe like a year, 2 years in the business at the time. Part of me being so young was I was the one who gets beat up. You know, like I the majority of the offense for my team should go to Kamala.
Yeah.
And and that's how I presented the match. And he was like, no, Steve. Oh no, we got to do it the other way. And he insisted on what we call taking the heat in the match. So he insisted on doing that. I was like, are you sure? Like I wasn't gonna say no because again, he's the veteran. But
yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
And what made it even more like memorable was that the ring we were working in, it at the time there was a piece of the padding right in the middle that was gone. It went up the entire length of the ring, and so it was just plywood there.
Oh my god!
And he knew, like everyone knew, we all knew. It wasn't like it was a surprise or anything like that, but it was something that you take into consideration when you're going through these sorts of things. And you got to understand, he's a big man, and he's not a spring chicken. So, but he insisted on doing all of the things that we did, and it was an awesome experience. So much so that every time he came back to Ontario, which was that GCW promotion, they would always bring him in. He requested that he worked with me all the time. Wow. So it was really cool and very humbling to hear him say, like, if I am coming here, I want to tag with Crazy Steve because we do good business. And he wanted me at the time. He wanted me to come down there and like. I forget where he was from. Oh geez, at the time it's been so long ago, but yeah, just a really, really good dude. And like, I remember I broke my ankle in 2013 and had to get surgery. And he messaged me the day of my surgery. Like, I don't know how, I mean, it was definitely, I kept fans up to date on Facebook and stuff like that. But Kamala, Big James, he's not someone who you think is like rocking Facebook on the daily basis. So the fact that he even knew and that he took the time to call me and stuff like that meant a lot to me. So yeah, he was, it was definitely a cool chapter in my storied career for sure.
Sweet.
Nice.
Sweet.
And when you first joined TNA Wrestling, what was your stable before Decay?
Yeah, so we were a part of a group called the Menagerie, which was a group that was conceived. Just they had an idea to have like this kind of circus of freak show people, and I just happened to be applying, I guess, at the time, like as you would, you would go in, you give them a package, so to speak, of like a match, a promo, and a write-up of who you are and kind of, a background.
Yeah.
And if they like what they read and they want to see you perform, then they bring you in for what they call a dark match. So I was doing that at the time, and I had presented them with the idea of what Crazy Steve was on the independents up to that point. And through the grapevine, I had heard that they were going to do this kind of the circus group. That's all I knew of it. I didn't know anything other than like, there's this idea to do like a carnival thing. And the next day they had asked me to wrestle again, do another dark match. And so I did everything differently than I did the day before. I dressed in different outfits. I painted my face specifically to look like a clown. I changed my mannerisms. I gave them no reason not to hire me, essentially. Yeah. I just said, if you guys need a creepy, crazy clown, I can do that too. So, and so I was hired based off of that. And the concept before I started was kind of like, from what I understood and from what was told to me, was kind of like a Devil's Rejects.
Oh, nice.
House of a Thousand Corpses type
yes.
thing. Which I'm like, oh, you're speaking my language. I can, this is, where, and like, again, like you can say these things or give these ideas to people, but it's up to the performers to be able to pull them off, right? Yeah. So, and they didn't know who I was from independent wrestling. They just knew that Eric Young had trained me, and he's, works for the company and is well trusted. So they were taking his word for it. So, but it just happened to be like a character like that I can easily pull off and do it very confidently. So that was the concept of it. That was the idea. And then when we arrived and we got there, we found out that we were like, we were the good guys. And I didn't see that for us. I just immediately assumed that you'd make us the bad guys.
Right.
We're these creepy, we're supposed to be these dirty, creepy, carny people. But they wanted us to be the good guys, which was, in a way, it was a nail in our coffin from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And so it only worked for so long. There was so much more that they could have done with it, and there was, there's so many different avenues that they could have gone with it, and it could have been successful. I think if they had presented us as creepy, weirdo heels, bad guys, if you will, like, then they definitely, I think it would have had more legs to run than presenting us as these lovable, colorful clowns. You know what I mean? Like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, to me, it would have been much easier to creep out an audience or a viewer than it would be to make them love you, or to make them laugh at you or laugh with you. You know what I mean? The idea of creeping somebody out that's easy for me. I think that's far more easily achievable. And when you're presenting an audience with this new package, I think, to me, you want to put your best foot forward. And I don't know if that was the case in the Menagerie days, but hey, it got me in there, and I've been able to keep a job ever since. And even when I did leave, I was able to return. So nice. I do. I look back on the Menagerie with fond memories. That's for sure.
Nice. And Decay was formed in 2016 with Rosemary and Abyss.
That is correct.
Who came up with Decay and finding the members?
So that kind of works. That's definitely the next chapter in my story. So as far as the Menagerie was concerned, it wasn't working out like we had hoped it was. And I would come to TVs, and like one person of the group would be gone, and then I'd come to another set of TVs, another person would be gone, and after a while it was just myself and Rebel, and I was just floating as far as like what you consider like a place on the card. Yeah. I wasn't necessarily featured on every show, and I necessarily wasn't you know, if I was to have a match, it didn't really mean anything. And I wanted to change that. And I was like, I got to figure out, I need a new avenue. I need a new way to get on TV again. I need a new look and everything. So I'd always wanted to work with Abyss. He was somebody who I just felt like from a character standpoint, I could easily attach myself to, and an audience wouldn't think that I'd be overstepping my bounds, you know,
Right.
especially with the character that I was presenting. So, so I'd always pitched to work with him, and I was, you know, fortunate enough and am fortunate enough to still be like really good friends with him. So he liked me, and he wanted to work with me as well. We just needed to give the writers an idea as to why we should be put together, you know. And so I came up with an idea, and I wrote it out, and I pitched it to the writers. And it was in December of 2015. We were at a Nashville Predators game, and
Nice.
our boss at the time came up to us and said, "Hey, we like your idea, and we're going to team up you and Abyss." I said, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Oh, fantastic." And this was also at the time that Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins had just signed with Impact Wrestling too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was overseeing a lot of the creative at that time. And so he was the one who came up with the name Decay.
Oh,
Nice.
And as far as they had another female in mind, they wanted to pair us with a female right off the get-go, but they had somebody else in mind. And myself and EY know of, at the time her name was Courtney Rush, and she was doing the Demon Assassin character on the Independents. And so I had talked to her, and I had said, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing with wrestling or in life in general, but there's this idea that we have, and they need a female, and I was wondering if I could throw your name in the hat, if you'd be interested." And she said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I did that. They wanted to see a promo and a match. We sent them both promo and match, and then they were like, "Yeah, we like her. You know, what's her name?" And I remember both her and we wrote down a bunch of names on a list. Again, this is all through text. This is not in person. And we both had the name Rosemary on the list.
nice.
So there was a couple other names in the running, but Rosemary was the one that was on both our lists. So that's what stuck, and so that was Rosemary. And then as far as like how we presented ourselves, how we looked in the beginning, it was my idea to use the Nobodies from Marilyn Manson's Hollywood for theme music, because I knew that Billy Corgan was friends with him, having seen them at various shows and stuff like that. And so I presented that to Billy. I said, "Hey, like, what do you see us coming out as, you know, for entrance music?" And he was like, "Well, I don't really see you guys coming out to, like, you know, deathcore, like, you know, screaming stuff." And I was like, "Good, neither do I." Like, not like, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I listen to that on a daily basis, but like, that was not how I wanted to present the group, and I don't feel like that was our vibe. And so I presented them with, I said, "Well, I was thinking something from, like, maybe something from Marilyn Manson." And he's like, "Oh, well, what song?" And I was not prepared to hear that. And I was like, "Oh, well, let me go through the library and I will come back to you." And so I'd always liked the opening portion of the Nobodies. I just felt like it was just, it was a great song, and it's memorable, and there's nothing else that sounds like it in wrestling. And you know, at the time, he didn't have a terrible name to himself like he does in today's standards. So having an audience or a viewer tune in and not know who I am, but hear that song and then see us come out, they can put the two and two together in their brain, and it helps them connect the dots without having to know. And that's a powerful tool to have, especially when, you know, everyone's attention spans are so short. So it was a blessing to be able to have entrance music that like at the time, nobody within our company was coming out to music by an actual, like, signed artist. No, there's a couple exceptions, because Corgan, he brought in the Dollhouse came out to Hole, but like other than that, like it was a changing, so to speak, and we were one of the lucky ones to kind of get that treatment as well. So we were fortunate for that. And like as far as how we looked, like at the beginning, I was in charge of, I was painting everybody's face. I was painting Rosemary's face, painting my face. When Abyss finally removed his mask, I was painting his face as well. And then over time, he grew comfortable with it. Rosemary's incredibly talented too. So it didn't take her long before she was like, oh, I got this. I kind of, and then she took the ball and ran with it. So,
Nice.
So the beginning stages, like the seed, I'll take credit for planting the seed of Decay, but to say that it was all me is not the case. It was a partnership in everybody. Like if Billy Corgan doesn't call it Decay, then it's not Decay.
Yeah.
If Abyss, if he doesn't get along with me or doesn't like me and doesn't want to work with me, then it never happens. If they don't trust me, as in the company doesn't trust me to have what I think we should come out to and the visual aspects of us, then it doesn't look the same. And, and if Rosemary isn't talented enough to carry the ball as far as, how much work they gave her on promos and stuff like that, and how much of the load that she had to do from a talking standpoint, then it doesn't happen, right? So it's a partnership between all of us. And that's why we've never felt like the group Decay has a leader in any way, shape, or form, because we all play a vital part in it. But so yes, that's the long short story of Decay.
Sounds. And then in 2021, for Impact Wrestling, you and Rosemary reformed Decay with new members, Black Taurus. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
And Havoc. How was it for you to do Decay again with a couple new members?
So it was different, obviously, right? For the same reasons that I put in, like myself, Abyss, and Rosemary all had a really good thing going when we were doing it. We're all, on the same page. And then when you add in two characters that, outside of Havoc, I've known her for a while, but Black Taurus doesn't even speak English. So you don't even know if he understands what he's coming into or if he cares, or you know what I mean? So there's a lot of variables that when they presented me with this, and it was different also in the sense that like now they were just doing, like, Decay just happened. It was always going to happen because I was with the company and so was Rosemary, and like we knew that it was a thing, but neither one of us was in a rush to make it happen, because I felt like the longer we're there and the longer, like, we can hold that in our back pocket, and when we're ready to pull it out, we can. And they did it in a way that was different than how I would have done it. I'll put it that way. And as far as like Jess, she has watched Decay from day one and absolutely loves it and is fully invested in it. And so she's been a great addition to it. And as far as Black Taurus is concerned, he's been tremendous as well, from an athletic standpoint, but also from like, he's always game to do whatever. And like, as far as like, when it comes time for promos and stuff like that, like he never really does anything. He doesn't get to talk, right? He's Minotaur. So he just grunts, right? But that being said, like, he still has to be with us whenever there's late shoots. You know what I mean? He's still there. He still has to wear the mask and the makeup and stuff like that. He's still going to be putting in the exact same amount of hours that we put in. And again, and I don't even know if he realizes like the history, or if he even gives a shit about the history of what we've built prior to this. I think he does, just from having the conversations that I have had with him and stuff like that. And like, I get along with him just fine. He's a good friend of mine. He's a good human being, and he's a fantastic wrestler.
Nice.
So like, yeah, but I will say, like, I think now we've found our stride, or at least we have a good idea of who we are and what version of this that we want to present to the audience. But I will say, like, at first it was definitely different, because it wasn't a lot of what was in my control in the beginning was not there anymore.
Mhm.
Not that they were taking anything from me. It was just like, we're going to do it and this is how we're doing it. And that's
Yeah.
that. And then you just do it. And it's like the train's moving too fast to stop and try and slow down and question everything. You can't do it. So, and that's not what I'm asked to do anyway. So, I think again, yeah, it was different, but we found our groove, and I think everyone's really happy right now to be in there and to be doing Decay. No one is in a rush to see it go anywhere. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, like that's such a a a great group. Like, how much I love horror, of course, and that group is definitely horror based, and it's so great to see something like that on television again, because like the last time we seen something like that was like Taker and Kane and stuff, and it's glad that I'm happy there is like something horror based in wrestling again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the audience we're speaking to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And Billy has like one last question. I know we're getting to the time. So Billy.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm known to talk. I'm known to jibber jabber. So let's hear it.
So you're an inspiration for a lot of people, and you're blind, but you won't let nothing hold you down on that. So how do you move so well in the ring and jump off the ropes?
Yeah, I don't like. So I get that one a lot. That one, and I don't know how to answer it because I have nothing to compare it to. Right? Everyone they asked me that, and like even my boss when I was hired the first time in 2014, he asked me, he's like, "So how do you do it then? Like if you can't see, then how do you do it?" And I don't know how to explain. It's not that I can't see entirely. It's not like I see black. You know what I mean? Okay. That's not the case. Mm-hmm. I can definitely. I have vision. It's just that my vision is incredibly poor. Like for example, like I'll never be able to drive a car. I can't see to drive a car. And when I'm in the ring, like I can't see the ring ropes. I can't see the audience. So there's definitely a visual limitation there. But I'm a very good hands-on learner. I'll say that. I've had to be, right? Without having proper vision, I have to be a good hands-on learner. So when it came to being taught the art form of pro wrestling, I felt like I attached myself to it very quickly and I adapted to it very quickly. And as far as how I move in the ring and like all that stuff, part of it is I'm halfway talented. And then the majority of it is the obsession that I have with just wanting to be the best performer that I can be. And I never wanted to be looked at as somebody who's like, and it's typical of pro wrestling to take something like an eyesight thing or someone who's missing a limb or something like that. It's very, pro wrestling will take that and spotlight it or highlight it and make that. Oh, and there's not, and I'm not like shitting on that, but that's just not how I wanted to be presented. And I didn't want to be in the spot of like, I didn't want to be on any professional wrestling card out of pity or out of exactly. Out of the idea that, oh, well, he's the guy who can't see. So, like the fact that I have that, it makes it an interesting little facet in my story, but that's not how I define myself. And that's not who I am as a person. Right. So, again, a lot of that is just the obsession of wanting to be the best that I possibly can be, in the sense of like, for being somebody who is legally blind, I'm very rarely you will find anybody who I've worked with that says like I'm dangerous that I've hurt them or anything like that. And that sounds weird too, because it's pro wrestling and like the idea is that like, yes, we are going to get hurt. We get hurt every time.
Of course.
Yes, 1,000%. But like, I don't go like, I already know that going in. I know that it hurts. So if I can do my best to not further injure my opponent, then I know he's already going to be injured because I know he's got to get up the next morning and do the same thing that I've got to do, right? It makes it so much easier when your nose is fully intact and not broken, or you don't have a black
Yeah.
eye, or you're missing teeth, right? Like nobody
Exactly.
wants to. No one wants to work with that guy on a daily basis. So I take pride in the sense that I've had a career for as long as I've had, and I've worked with the talent that I've been able to work with, but I've also like protected them as best as I possibly can. And so, you know, like I said, I'm halfway talented, but a lot of it comes down to putting in the reps, putting in the time, putting in the effort, and knowing that I have to work harder than others.
Mhm.
You know, I don't have the eyesight. I'm not 6'6". I'm not 270 pounds. Like, I'm already coming at this with multiple limitations, or what have you, however you want to put that. So it just comes down to like putting in the time and sharpening your skills, and again, just putting in the time, putting in the reps,
Mhm.
staying dedicated, staying obsessed, I guess.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you as a performer and what you do in the ring, man. I really do.
Thank you. I
That
appreciate
inspires me just as much as it inspires you.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. That's cool. Very
Yeah.
cool to hear.
Yeah,
Definitely.
you're welcome.
And lastly, where can fans find you at, like with your pages, social media, and all that?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Steve of Crazy with 2 Z's. And then on Instagram, you can find me at TNA_Crazy_Steve.
Awesome.
And yeah. And then other than that, as far as like booking info or like where you can buy my merchandise, all of those, both of those are linked within my Twitter and my Instagram. So find my social medias, and that will lead you to a cavalcade of other adventures that include yours truly.
Awesome.
Awesome, man.
Well, thanks,
This-
guys. I appreciate you for having me on, man.
Exactly. This has been so great. It's really cool getting to talk to you and know you, and it's fun to know what horror movies you like too. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Definitely have a great night, and good luck with everything else in wrestling.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
To everyone who's listening, I hope you all enjoyed. Again, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you, buddy.
man. Absolutely.
Take care, guys.
All right, buddy.
All right,
You
you
too.
too.